following season, it's not exactly the mother of all cliffhangers, but there's a really good reason for that. Just like Chuck and Pushing Daisies, the debut season of Breaking Bad was truncated by the 2007 Writers Guild of America strike, which meant shaving off the planned 8th and 9th episodes that would cap off season 1. I don't want to give the show too hard of a time for leaving things off on a less than climactic note, given circumstances were sort of out of their control. I'll make fun of an actress's performance the season after she had a brain aneurysm, but this is too far for me. Okay, my defense, brain aneurysm thing. Didn't know about that when I wrote the script.
Where are my dragons?
Of course, the strike put the writers in a bind on how to leave things off on an enticing hook. And, of course, this also denied audiences the most famous Breaking Bad trivia tidbit of all. Jesse Pinkman was supposed to die at the end of season 1. It makes for a real fascinating many-world story. Imagine how different Breaking Bad would be if the writers' strike hadn't happened. But in truth, Vince Gilligan has confessed that they knew Aaron Paul's Jesse Pinkman was dynamite in the role, and strike or no, they wouldn't have the stomach to follow through with offing the character so prematurely. So that's season 1 of Breaking Bad. A stellar start, though not exactly a taste of what is coming next. It's also a pretty amusing insight into just how far discourse around marijuana has shifted over the last 15 years. When Skylar learns her husband has been smoking weed, you think she just found a prostitute's head in her crawl space. With a full season lined up for its sophomore year and 3 of the most renowned characters in television history about to make their appearances, let's jump over to season 2 to watch ABQ become even more alive.
What is that? Conjecture? Are you basing it on that he's got like a normal, healthy brain or something? Did you not see him beat a dude to death for like nothing?
Since such a large slice of the first season revolved around discussing cancer treatment with family, the care and feeding of a hostage, and a recipe for how to make a dude smoothie, there was actually surprisingly little time devoted to manufacturing and distributing meth for a show about 2 meth peddlers. Season 2 of Breaking Bad is structured much more like how I assume audiences imagined the show would be from the beginning. The logistics of running a small-scale meth business. There's an episode about where Jesse recruits his dealers. There's an episode where they have to handle a dealer getting arrested. There's an episode where they have to handle a dealer getting robbed. There's an episode where they have to handle a dealer getting shot. There's an episode where they have to deal with their shoddy RV, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere. Act 2 of the second season borders on Case of the Week, which might contribute to some of the backlash I've seen for this season in recent months. Not like people are out there trashing this as some sort of sophomore slump, but the series saw a resurgence in popularity with people catching up for the Better Call Saul finale. And I've noticed a lot of first-time viewers ranking season 2 as the worst. Chalk that up in part to the divisive resolution to the black and white cold opens peppered throughout the season, teasing some ominous mass casualty event at the White House. No, not that one. But I believe it's also because such a large chunk of the season is spent in pseudo-Case of the Week mode. Watching Jesse LARP as a drug kingpin is endearing, with occasional left-field gut punches as unexpected traumatic events come to spoil his fun, but compared to the barn-burner 3-parter that kicks off Season 1, the extreme tension of Season 3, the captivating battle of wits in Season 4, and the nightmarish endgame that burns every character's world to the ground in the 5th season, I can understand Season 2 being the odd man out. I love it all the same, especially because of the events that transpire in the final 2 episodes, which really sealed the deal for me. But even the mid-season is an exciting ride. For all the terrible things that happened to them during those few short weeks where they were running the show, these really were the halcyon days of the drug empire, as Walt will later recall in the episode Fly. Remember when all we had to deal with was being stranded in the middle of nowhere with no water and people's heads being crushed by ATM machines? Those were the simpler, more innocent times.
What the fuck is going on?
But before we get to Jesse becoming the new Tuco, we of course have to contend with Tuco still being the old Tuco. Their partnership established at the end of the previous season, things turn sour quickly when the henchman he tuned up goes belly up. Now witnesses to a murder, Walt and Jesse start making hasty plans to poison Tuco, while Tuco starts making hasty plans to abduct them, kill Jesse, and flee with Walt to Mexico so they can keep the meth-making dream alive. Raymond Cruz is intimidating enough in the role as is, and the introduction of his seemingly senile uncle Hector Salamanca is a stroke of absolute genius. Again, with hindsight, having seen the whole series, it's one of those things where we all know Hector Salamanca's mind is still sharp despite his health issues. But on a first viewing, you have this armed, trigger-happy psycho abusing meth, ready to fly off the handle at the slightest misinterpretation of an erroneous ding from a senile old man of questionable mental faculties. The episode is a masterpiece of anxiety, and the tension ratchets up even higher when Hector thwarts their poisoning attempt by revealing he's not nearly as senile as they thought, and is completely aware of what Walt and Jesse are up to. It's iconic.
Why don't you like the deal? You trust him?
Hank turns up looking for his missing brother-in-law, Walt, and he and Tuco wind up having a little high noon at the OK Corral. While the DEA is all too happy to indulge Hank's built-up tough guy persona and celebrate him killing one of Albuquerque's most despicable gangsters, he's secretly wrestling with post-traumatic stress after the incident, and his mental health is not helped when he witnesses an improvised explosive device with an unusual delivery method while on assignment in El Paso.
Hey! Welcome to...
Nah, son. What kind of shot is that, bruh? It's not a
kind
steal.
of a one-note, gruff loudmouth in season 1. Humorous as his crassness was, it's great that the
you fucking dirt, bro.
Season. This macho man persona is a crutch so he can attempt to brush off the horrors he has faced. But to maintain the facade, he rejects opportunities to open up about what he's going through. It's an interesting parallel to Walt, who is clearly integrating Hank's manly man mannerisms into his Heisenberg alter ego, buying into the front Hank was presenting in the first season, unaware of how much it's currently inhibiting his brother-in-law's maturity and emotional stability. Yeah, it's great. Clocked by his wife answering a burner phone and hot off a disappearance he can't explain away, love is on the rocks for Walt and Skylar. In fact, since Jesse is in the driver's seat when it comes to the meth operation, a majority of Walt's storyline this season involves his desperate surface-level attempts to save his now struggling marriage, and his more impactful, detrimental actions that speak for themselves. Anna Gunn is absolutely fantastic as Skylar White, and this season in particular is a showcase for her. From the initial betrayal, confusion, and shock following Walt's disappearance, to a conditioned annoyance as he continues on with his constant vanishing and blatant lies. In fact, one of the two major climactic payoffs of the second season rests almost entirely on the shoulders of Anna Gunn, the scene where she uncovers Walt's laundry list of lies and leaves him. It's a whirlwind of emotions, not to mention it puts the now more ruthless than ever Walter in his place, right as he's finally starting to feel content with his life after a whole season of lamenting the success of his supposed moonshot cancer treatment, seemingly because he got his hopes up that, do this little meth cook scheme for a few months and cash out, and wasn't terribly invested in, caring about life anymore. An ungrateful, selfish attitude, and yet once again, one I can kind of darkly sympathize with.
Stay, and I will tell you everything.
Whatever it is, I'm afraid to know.
It's a pity that turning in such a well-realized performance led a subsection of the show's audience who disliked the character to direct their ire at the actress who portrayed her specifically. I generally have little sympathy anytime I see Hollywood celebrities whining about internet trolls because usually they brought it on themselves by going on Twitter and shooting their mouths off. But Anna Gunn never did anything to hurt anybody like that, and the amount of online hostility directed at her was just awful to see. It got so bad that she wrote an op-ed piece for the New York Times regarding the way her character served as a Rorschach test, revealing the true colors of some viewers prior to the show's 5th season. And she's notably distanced herself from the Breaking Bad pop culture zeitgeist, while her fellow cast members are out there relishing it. How sad is that? You're one of the stars of one of the greatest series of all time, but the experience is soured because your portrayal of a conflicted wife with a bit of a Karen streak, forced to play the role of the bad guy to cover for the crimes of your increasingly sociopathic husband, was too good. Bummer.
I'm just the bitch mom who wouldn't cut you any slack.
The most significant addition to the main cast this season is, of course, James Morgan McGill, doing business as Saul Goodman. With Walt contending with a failing marriage and Jesse contending with spiraling drug addiction, the black comedy of the first season is less readily available in year 2. And what better way to address that than by interjecting an outright comic relief character who isn't taking either of the duo's personal issues seriously?
Did you not plan for this contingency?
No.
Well, next time plan for it, would you? Starship Enterprise had a self-destruct button, I'm just saying.
Okay, shut up.
Saul Goodman is also essential from a plot perspective as a fixer. He knows a guy who knows a guy, and the
I'm off this. This shit tripping.
Experiences and apply to his marital life as his persistent, increasingly
this shit bugging.
return